Welcome to Empty Nesters True Crime Podcast, where we explore chilling mysteries and dark secrets. With their nest now empty, Susan and Nancy have more time to uncover the truth and venture into the unknown. Let's step into the shadows together, shall we?
Hey, Susan.
Hey, Nancy, how are you?
Good.
I see you brought us a guest.
We have a guest for this podcast, so we had to ask everybody, if you have a story you would like us to do, let us know. And this one actually came from Ethan. So Ethan is joining us.
Hello, Ethan.
How's it going?
So also, this story is regarding a fraternity, and Ethan happens to belong to a fraternity. And so, yes, if you haven't figured out, Ethan is my son, and he did recommend this story to us. And it was kind of special to him because he actually met the victim's mother.
Yeah, so we had a hazing prevention course that we had to go to in person, where the mother of the victim actually came in and spoke about it and talked a lot about hazing prevention in general.
Was it pretty emotional?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot to it. It's hard. It's something that's hard to hear. You know, you don't want to hear about it happening.
But definitely needs her son's story definitely needs to be heard. So let's get started.
I have a question.
Yes, Susan.
Did they haze you when you joined the fraternity?
No, I would not say I got hazed.
Would they call it a haze?
No.
We're talking about terminology. You're not even allowed to say certain things anymore, like pledges and...
Yeah, we're not even allowed. We have to say new members now because pledging is a derogatory term, so they want us to stick to new members to get any sort of hazing just out of the equation.
Yeah, so not even allowed to call them pledges anymore, which I thought was interesting. And yeah, we'll get into our experience with that as we get through the story. Tonight, we explore the tragic story of Michael Deng, a young life cut short by the very brotherhood he wanted to join. He wanted that sense of community, support, and belonging as he entered his college years. Fraternities can seem as an instant group of friends with a common set of values, including academic excellence, character, and leadership development. But what if these friends you so desperately want to be a part of are also the reason you're no longer here? Many hazing deaths we read about are often results of alcohol abuse, but Michael's story is different. This wasn't about reckless drinking. It was a cruel and deliberate hazing ritual. The fraternity members subjected him to brutal physical abuse, and tragically, when Michael needed urgent medical help, they chose to delay, prioritizing their own protection over his life. This neglect ultimately cost Michael his life. Michael Deng grew up in Queens, New York, as a child of a first-generation immigrant family from China. He was known for his outgoing nature. He excelled both academically and athletically. He was very close to his family and friends. When it came time to choosing a college, he decided to stay in New York City, so he enrolled in Baruch College. It is part of the City University of New York. Baruch College has been featured by the Princeton Review, which is a popular guide for students when choosing a college. It's part of the City University of New York. Baruch College has been featured by Princeton Review, which is popular for its guidebook, used by prospective college students and their families. They wrote, "Students here have access to internships, big companies, and Wall Street." It noted the impressive number of career development programs on campus, the diversity within the student body, and the valuable professional experience that both students and faculty bring into the classroom. According to bestcollege.com, the college had a total undergraduate of about 16,000. This sounds like a great school choice. I can imagine how proud his parents were of him for starting this new journey. Once at college, Michael joined Pi Delta Psi, an Asian American fraternity known for its strong sense of community and tradition. According to the fraternity's website, it was founded at Binghamton University on February 20th, 1994, by 11 men with various Asian backgrounds. They are one of the largest Asian cultural fraternities and have a presence on at least 25 college campuses nationwide, most which are based in the Northeast. The curriculum helps members discover their unique identities. They will gain leadership skills that can be used to navigate the challenges that they will face in life. The 4 pillars are academic achievement, cultural awareness, friendship, loyalty, and righteousness. So yeah, I'm just going to say that the friendship, loyalty, and righteousness were not practiced in this story. What should have been a journey of camaraderie and growth turned into a harrowing tale of hazing gone tragically wrong. The shocking case of Michael Deng's death helped expose the dangerous world of fraternity pledging. It revealed the severe consequences that fraternity members and organizations can face when such reckless and inhumane practices are allowed to happen. On December 8, 2013, he was nearing the end of his freshman year. Michael and his fraternity brothers traveled to a rented house in the Poconos for a retreat. Unbeknownst to Michael and several other pledges, they would be subject to a brutal hazing ritual known as the glass ceiling. The physical and emotional toll of this ritual was pretty abusive. They were blindfolded and made to wear a 20 to 30-pound heavy backpack. They were to call out for their big brother on the other side of the field and try to make their way towards them. Ethan, what is a big brother in a fraternity?
So a big brother is more of just a mentor to you. It's someone that you can look to for questions, just someone for life advice in general.
Okay, so it's someone they should be looking up to and helping the new members. We're not calling them pledges anymore.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you are a big brother to somebody?
Yes, I have a little.
Do you have multiple ones?
I have a little, and then he has a little.
So that makes you a...
Grand big.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I know when Ariel was in a sorority, she had 2 littles, and she was the big, and then she had a big. What happens when you graduate? Are you still the littles big?
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely still going to communicate after college. I mean, they're still welcome to come talk to me. And my big's actually already graduated, and I still talk to him all the time.
So it's like you form a friendship.
Yeah, it's
like
lifelong.
It's your fraternity family.
Yeah.
So in this story, it's really sad because his big is definitely part of the hazing that went wrong. So there were 3 tiers of fraternity brothers they would have to get through. The first was pretty much just the guy standing in the way. The second tier was more physical contact and would become more aggressive. Then they get to the third tier, which they called the glass ceiling. This is when it became much more severe. The brothers would repeatedly tackle the pledges as they continued their attempts to make their way across the yard. Michael fell multiple times while doing this ritual. He even complained of his head hurting, but this did not stop him from being tackled again and again. Michael was told that he must move forward. Michael was hit violently by fraternity member Kenny Kwan, who was the pledge assistant responsible for overseeing the ordeal. Kenny charged at Michael from about 15 feet, landing a hit so hard that afterward, Michael could not stand up on his own, and his speech started to slur.
And this is fun?
So I guess the reason his hazing was maybe more brutal than the other ones that were there is because when he was getting knocked down, he was kind of fighting, they said. He was kicking, as you would. So I guess some of the brothers got upset, and this is where his attack was much more brutal than the other ones. So in a state of panic, a few fraternity members brought him inside and placed him by the fireplace. He was breathing, but apparently they were saying he was making funny noises, described as sounding like snoring. So what did they do? They start doing Google searches, of course. They were searching the internet, looking up concussions unable to wake up, snoring not waking up, and pupils don't dilate. Others tried desperately to wake Michael. Over 30 members and pledges were in the rental house at this time witnessing the tragedy unfolding, and not one called for an ambulance. While Michael was unconscious, Charles Lee, which remember he's the big brother, he called Andy Mang, who is the fraternity's national president. Then they decided to change Michael's clothes so he would not be wearing anything that connected him to the fraternity. In a devastating decision, the members waited before driving Michael to a hospital, which was already about 45 minutes away. By the time they arrived at that hospital, it had been close to 2 hours since the injury occurred. Michael was immediately put into the intensive care unit. Charles Lai was one of the brothers who took Michael to the hospital. I think there was like 4 that went with him. He then called back to the house and instructed them to hide all fraternity-related items, including clothes, fraternity paddles, banners, and signs. Also, illegal substance that they had at the house, as he knew that the police would be stopping by.
My ex-husband had a fraternity paddle when he was in a fraternity where they all signed the paddle. And that was one of the things, well, back then, because it's like the Stone Ages, it was a hazing that every signature on that paddle had spanked him with the paddle.
Oh, Ethan, do you know about fraternity paddles?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of fraternities that do them. We don't have them. It's not something that we have a culture of.
Okay.
But I definitely know some fraternities that do have them.
Okay, I didn't know what that was, so thank you both for clarifying.
Yeah, and it's like back in the 80s when you were in
like
school.
a wooden paddle.
Yeah, and they come pull you out of the classroom and principal spank you with the paddle. I never got paddled. But I know kids who did get paddled, and it's a paddle like that, a big wood paddle.
Okay. So sadly, the very next day, Michael succumbed to his traumatic injuries. The forensic pathologist later confirmed that the delay in his treatment significantly contributed to his death. According to court documents, the forensic pathologist said he suffered significant blunt force trauma to his head, back, and other parts of his body. They were caused by severe force. He had extensive damage to the interior of his brain. His death was ruled a homicide.
Like Noah Presgrove. He blunt force trauma to the head.
After a long investigation in 2015, 37 fraternity members were charged in connection with this incident. Many charges are for hindering apprehension, which essentially is lying to the police during their investigation, fleeing the scene, or hiding evidence. 5 other members were also charged with third-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and aggravated assault. According to the NBC News article, the national president of the fraternity, Andy Meng, who happened to be the brother of a Congresswoman Grace Meng, would be the one who would receive lesser charges. His lawyer defended him, saying he had no role in the death or obstructing the investigation. 2017, 4 individuals, Charles Lai, remember he's the big brother, Kenny Kwan, who's the one that put the big hit on him, Raymond Lam, and Sheldon Wong pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and hindering apprehension. This would now make 5 brothers that entered a guilty plea, as Ka Wang Yen had previously done. And apologies if I pronounced that name wrong. He entered on charges of conspiracy to hinder apprehension of evidence tampering, a third-degree felony, and conspiracy to commit hazing. So what do you think of those charges, Susan? Third-degree murder? Well, we're about to see what they also thought. Daniel Lee, the president of the fraternity chapter, acknowledged his presence during the incident, but says he did not participate. He ultimately cooperated with the investigation, and this kind of shocked everybody. He testified against his fellow fraternity members in exchange for reduced charges.
That's how it works.
So, Ethan, that's why I'm like, what do you think? So we talked about this case a little bit. When I heard that, I thought, oh, he's the president. How did he get off on it? But as Ethan kind of explained,
the president takes all legal responsibility in a fraternity. So everything that happens, the president is responsible for. And he's supposed to know everything that goes on. However, that's not to say people aren't going to go against his back and do things without his permission.
So you agree that if he wasn't the one who physically put the hit on him...
Oh, no, I don't. I think he should have gotten charged. I think he's fully responsible.
Okay.
But we've also talked, the first one that cooperates gets the lightest.
Yeah, that's what he did. He turned on everybody, and he threw everybody under the bus. He even told them how they had a meeting once they got back to New York and talked about what they were going to tell lawyers, what they were going to say, So But so I wasn't sure because I'm like, he's the president, though. Could he have stopped all this? But I think what happened was that one hit, so, it's just a sad story. So the 5 that had the most significant charges were charged as followed. In 2018, Yen was sentenced to 5 years of probation, 100 hours of community service in order to pay a $1,000 fine. Later in 2018, Kwan was sentenced to 12 to 14 months in prison, while Wong and Lam received 10 to 24 month sentence. Lai received 342 days to 24 months. Each defendant will have 7 years of probation following their prison time.
That's it?
Yeah. They would not get convicted of third-degree murder or voluntary manslaughter. And many others that had the lesser charges, they just got probation.
That's bullshit. That's not even... Well, they didn't spend over a year or a couple years.
It happens a lot with fraternity hazing events where the members don't receive any punishments simply because it was from a fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
So for some reason, the courts don't see it as the same thing as them doing it themselves.
But Ethan, what do you think about this one? A lot of it's, let's say, alcohol, and of course, I don't want to say everybody is different when they drink, but this was intentional. Like he literally went back up, and I know he didn't mean for the kid to pass, but it was an intentional event. But
it's absolutely unacceptable. There's no reason for it.
And I'm glad you see that.
There should be no reason to have to do that to join an organization and be friends with somebody. And anyone that thinks that's how you get friends is just not in the right mindset.
Yeah, I didn't come beat you with the paddle when we became friends.
And okay, so when Ethan, and we'll talk about this, how you told me you were going to pledge a fraternity, you decided freshman year. And this story right here, Susan, I didn't know this one, but I know of these stories, and that's a mother's biggest fear.
Right.
I remember telling him, okay, if they make you do anything illegal, or if they make you do anything that could cause your life, run and run fast. It's not worth it.
She's beating the table, folks.
I am.
So if you hear that, that is her passion.
But Ethan, I know, so they are not allowed to say what happened during, am I allowed to say initiation? Can we call it that?
Yeah.
They're not allowed to say, but you did promise me it was not anything illegal, anything.
No, there was nothing illegal or anything that would cause physical injury to me.
Because you realize, especially those 5 kids, their lives have now changed. Of course, the young gentleman who no longer is with us, but those other 5 that participated in this, that got the more charges.
Yes, but that boy that died, he doesn't get to get married, have a family. All that these guys get to go on with their life.
You're right, Susan.
They've got a little cloud over their head, but they still they're young. They get to live full lives.
You're right. I absolutely should not look at it like that. And this brings me to a good point. So in a victim statement, Deng's mom, Mary Lou Deng, expressed the deep anguish she feels over her son's death, describing it as like there's a cat clawing and scratching at my heart. And she says, since he left, the lines between real life and a dream are blurred. She remembered her son as a kind, generous, loving person, even from a young age, and says, now Michael is gone, and I cannot understand why. Why they tackled him and did not take care of him. Why did they do this to him? Whew, that is exactly why. And, the whole oath of the friendship and loyalty, and where is all that? So the young men would say, of course, they never intended this to happen. And some will say they are guilt-ridden for the conduct in this ritual, deeply saddened and even devastated over Michael's death. But the thing is, they still participated, most likely knowing it was wrong. And yeah, I guarantee most of them kids there, they were just in the group. This is probably something they did to every class, and this one just got out of hand.
Yep. Like our producer, he is always saying that, you have freedom of speech. I'm going to relate this. You have freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to say, but there are consequences for what you say. So, yes, they had a choice that they wanted to choose being violent, but there are consequences for choosing that. Whether they meant it or not, there are consequences. And they did not receive the consequences that they should have.
We've talked about this before, Susan. When something happens, it's a cover-up. The first thing they think of is themselves. You know, they didn't think of, oh my gosh, we need to get him to the hospital ASAP.
Right.
We didn't do that. We worried about protecting the fraternity.
They wanted to protect their own ass.
Over this kid's life.
Right.
The fraternity was convicted of and charged with involuntary manslaughter and aggravated assault. The court ruled the fraternity was prohibited from operating in Pennsylvania. This means they cannot operate any chapter here for 10 years and also ordered to pay a $110,000 fine. They also required Pi Delta Psi to inform other universities of the sentencing of this case. But according to NBC News, the ban on having a chapter was later overturned on an appeal, so I'm not really sure how long the ban actually lasted.
So that punishment didn't happen either.
Yeah, it got overturned, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, not sure, but the Deng family would get an undisclosed settlement against the national and local fraternity chapters.
And they should have, but it does not replace their son.
No, it doesn't. And it was, there's a picture, and we're going to post it, of him and his dad. It looks like they're at a restaurant together, and it's just heartbreaking.
I looked him up while you were first talking.
And he looks like a great kid.
He does.
He is a great kid, yeah. It's
like
sad.
Such a sweet guy.
No,
it's senseless.
He's new in college, wanted to make some friends. So, Ethan, what was like a reason that you were drawn to a fraternity?
For me, it was the sense of community that it brings, and also just having something to do while in college. It definitely helps being a fraternity, not being bored all day long. So that's something that being a fraternity helps. But yeah, again, with the sense of like community, there's a lot of life skills you get to learn. Even after college, I know plenty of brothers that have gotten jobs from other past brothers that have given them jobs. So like the networking that comes with it, the personal skills, the leadership skills, that's all something that I was drawn to.
Yeah, that's when Ariel joined the sorority. It was more for networking opportunities.
Networking.
But I think Ethan joined the fraternity because he was tired of hanging out with Ariel. He was like, I got to go find me some friends.
Yeah, they were at school for a little bit together. But so the Baruch College said Michaels died participating in an unsanctioned fraternity pledging event. They said the school had no knowledge of it and was clear that they have a zero tolerance policy for hazing. This would end Pi Delta Psi's affiliation with the college. Individuals involved would also have their fraternity membership revoked. The aftermath of Michael's death sent shockwaves through the community and through the college community and beyond. It sparked a conversation about the dangers of hazing and the responsibilities of fraternities and sororities. Michael's story is a sad reminder of the dark side of college life, where tradition and the desire for belonging can sometimes lead to tragic consequences. It also underscores the importance of institutional accountability and the need for cultural change with these organizations. In the years since Michael's passing, Baruch College and many other institutions have taken steps to reform their policies on hazing and Greek life. The hope is no other family will have to endure the pain and loss that Michael's loved ones had to face. Today, we remember Michael Deng, not as a victim of hazing, but as a young man with dreams, ambition, and a bright future ahead of him. His story serves as a call for action, a plea for empathy, vigilance, and change. So let's honor Michael's memory by ensuring such tragedies never happen again. And Susan, there are 44 of our 50 states that have anti-hazing laws in place, with 15 states making it a potential felony offense. Those states that have the harshest are Florida, Texas, California, Utah, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, New Jersey, Kentucky, and Washington. But there are still states that do not have any hazing laws.
Well, North Carolina was not on your list.
Well, we have them. We're just not a felony state.
Okay.
The ones that do not have hazing is Montana, South Dakota, Wyoming, New Mexico, Hawaii, and Alaska. I mean, that needs to change. So there is
there's not a whole lot going on in Montana.
Well, maybe.
Or Wyoming.
So, Ethan, have you ever heard of stophazing.org?
Yeah, it's something that we've been told about, especially through our new member process. They wanted us to be aware of the dangers of hazing and everything surrounding it.
Yeah, that website is a phenomenal website. I went on there, and so they define hazing as activity expected of someone joining or participating in a group that humiliates, degrades, abuse, or endangers them regardless of a person's willingness to participate. According to them, 55% of college students involved in clubs, teams, or organization experience hazing. So that's 3 in 5 students. They say alcohol consumption, humiliation, isolation, sleep deprivation, sex acts are common hazing practices. But on that site, Susan, when I was talking about the states and their laws, every state is different. So if you go on stophazing.org, you can click on your state and read what every state's laws are. So that's kind of interesting. So I know we have some listeners here who may have some young gentlemen starting college and looking into fraternities. And I think this is some good information to look at and think about. And so, Ethan, when you were looking at a fraternity, what were kind of like your criterias? What drew you to where you are? And we're going to keep your fraternity anonymous for now, but
Well, we're keeping it anonymous forever.
yes.
So the biggest thing with joining a fraternity is that people join people. It doesn't necessarily matter if you join the big social fraternity or the popular one if you don't like the people. So the big thing to do is make sure that when you're going to rush events and you're meeting the brothers, that you enjoy talking to them.
Okay. So people who you think you have a lot in common with, don't just go for the most popular one on the college campus.
He's not joining the lumberjack fraternity. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I mean, there are some good things. I've seen a lot of volunteer stuff that you do. Can you tell us about the Olympic event, the Special Olympic event that was kind of special?
So we help out with a lot of local Miracle League games. It's for people with different abilities that it gives them a chance to enjoy sports like baseball. So we will go out and volunteer and help them. We'll coach teams, be buddies with the kids, and just have a good time with them.
That was sweet. And I saw another picture where somebody's grandmother was moving and y'all jumped in to help her.
Yes. So we've had a couple people actually.
Okay.
It's brothers, grandparents, or parents or something that they need help moving. So they'll reach out and then some of the brothers will go and help them move. That was a special case because it was a brother whose grandmother had some health issues. So she had to move to more of a community to help her. So it was hard for them.
Okay.
So it was nice to be able to go help them and take the burden off of them having to move themselves.
So you would consider yourself like a family. I mean, you're
Yeah,
pretty
for
close with you're pretty close because this year you're living with the president and do you hold the position in the fraternity?
I'm the ritual chairman, so I'm responsible for a bit of the process that the new members go through. So the stuff that teaches them our values and how we'd like them to be as people.
So this hazing event, was that done by a ritual?
I really couldn't say.
Okay.
It depends how each chapter is run. Sometimes that would be a ritual thing. Sometimes that's more on the person who's responsible for the new members themselves.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. But your fraternity does make sure. Do you have anything set up to make sure none of this happens?
Not necessarily. We just don't have a culture of it. It's something that we've never, I can't say never done, but for the past.
But you've never.
No, I've never done it. The people before me have never done it.
But your fraternity itself had an issue years and years and years ago or something?
In the past, I'm sure, yes, there may have been something that happened, but now it's not a thing.
Yeah, I think hazing has really come to light.
I have a question, though. Are there other fraternities on campus that you hear of that do have this hazing?
And this is all going to be allegedly.
I plead the fifth on that.
So
we're
going to say that this does still go on in
college
some
camp. So we're going to leave him out of that part of the conversation, but we're allegedly going to say that it still happens. And that's really scary.
Out of the whole United States or all the colleges everywhere, of course it still happens.
Of course it still happens.
Mm-hmm.
But most of it, not most, a lot of it we hear about the drinking, or they made them drink too much. And we know that they do these brutal things to to kids still too. That's why I liked Ethan sharing this story because, this was deliberate act. I mean, they deliberately hit that kid like this. And, it's sad. And our prayers go out to his family, as I'm sure they fight with this every day, And if I'm correct, Ethan, I don't think his mom knew he was joining a fraternity, right?
I'm not really sure. I don't think
I didn't think she did either. And like I said, Ethan had told us, and I don't know. I was so nervous, but I've met many of your fraternity friends, and they are great guys. So though this is a bad part of being in a fraternity, you've had a lot of great experience. Ethan's going to be a junior this year, so you're going to go into your third year. So what would you recommend? Like, what would you recommend somebody like, because you joined right away.
He had to get away from Ariel. Just driving him crazy.
Are you happy with the fraternity you picked?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was getting at.
One of the biggest things with a fraternity is Hollywood is not a good depiction of how it is. Most of the movies you see on fraternities and like everything involved with them, that's not how it actually is.
It's not like Animal House?
I was just going to say that.
No, not at all.
Okay, but I will say, so Ethan just moved into a new fraternity house with there 5 of you. I told you before on an episode like how gorgeous this house is, but I would not take my shoes off. I'm just saying.
Well, I do.
They need a rug cleaner.
For his fraternity, the sorority houses are on campus, and the fraternities used to be on campus.
Well, that's what I was getting at.
Yes.
You were kicked off.
There you
Yes.
go.
So
that's
there
what I
you
was
go.
getting at when he was saying it was done before. I knew something happened that they're no longer on campus, but there are some good things they do. Ethan, would you like to tell us when you do have parties, how you try to make sure your guests are safe?
Yeah, we always try to do the most we can to make sure that nothing goes wrong. We have people in place to monitor everything. We have a position called a risk manager, who his entire job is to make sure everybody stays safe.
And he doesn't drink, correct?
No, he has to stay sober. Our president has to stay sober.
Okay.
Well, I
And-
hate that job.
It's not a job for Susan.
And then every party, we make sure to have a couple brothers that stay sober just to watch over and make sure everything runs smoothly and that no one's, getting too drunk. And if someone does need help, that we can get them that help.
And you do drive people to and from your party.
Yes, we have sober drivers that get people to and from parties so that they're not just responsible for figuring it out themselves.
And Susan, so that goes to the new members. And freshman year, I'd lend him my Mitsubishi with that 3rd row seat. He popped that seat up and he could get a lot of the sorority girls, because mostly it's a lot of sorority girls coming, right? But I like that. And they also tell them.
So you are an accessory to helping your son get the ladies to and from the party.
Well, so we said he couldn't take his car, his Dodge Challenger with no back seat anyways. That wouldn't have worked. But we were like, oh, you're not going to have a car on campus freshman year. But then when all this started happening, I was like, but then he was driving somebody else. I said, no, just take my Mitsubishi. Just if a girl throws up in it, you're in big trouble. But
I remember this.
that didn't happen. Thank goodness.
Remember that you are not going to have a car.
No, I wasn't. Remember?
And it was like a few months went by and it was like,
You're even taking my car back.
Nancy. And you're like, I know.
Yeah, when he told me that they were doing this, I thought, well, you need a vehicle. And I didn't want him driving, just for insurance purposes, somebody else's. But I also like the fact that you don't have males at your party. That way you make sure the females stay safe, right? Because the whole roofing, is that part of it?
Yeah, we're strict on who gets into our parties. Everyone that comes in, most people that come in and out, they're on a sheet. And we try to keep track of like what time everyone comes in. And we don't let any men into the parties just simply because we don't want to be responsible for other people.
Fighting.
We try to lower risk as much as we can. And keeping it just to brothers is something that we found to be a good solution for that.
So it cuts down on fighting, potentially like somebody bringing in something, slipping it to a female.
Yeah.
Because that has happened actually at UNC with another fraternity. Actually, you hear about that.
Oh, I have
I
heard.
hear about it all over. I'm not saying it doesn't happen where they are, but at
My daughter's been to fraternity parties. I've heard what goes on at fraternity parties. And, ooh, yeah.
But I'm sure yours are all very mild, right? You all sit around, cookies and milk, and play cards, right? That's what.
Absolutely.
Say
Absolutely.
absolutely, Ethan.
Just say it. Just say absolutely.
100%.
You know, you're supposed to say absolutely so the people can drink.
Yeah, that's our code word.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ethan, for joining us and giving us some knowledge on this. And again, he chose this case for us. And if anybody else has a case, please let us know. And if you're local, maybe you can join us too on an episode. That would be fun. But we ask that, if you did like the podcast, to please share it, especially if you know somebody who may have a college student. This is some great information on here. We definitely appreciate that. A like, a follow,
Comment.
Yeah, this was a interesting episode. Thank you, Ethan.
Yes, thank you, Ethan. It's nice
Thanks
to see
for having
you.
me.
Yes.
Anytime.
Well, Susan, I hope you have a good rest of your week. And we're going to get back together on Friday to do the drinks.
Yes.
And I did want to talk about what I'm having here. It is, I looked up. Now, my son is not 21, so this is not for him. But what do college students drink? And this was one of them. So
this is what Brittany drinks.
yes, my daughter is 21. So yeah. So Ethan is only 20. So he is not participating in our beverages tonight. But they just drink some easy things that they can pull out of their cabinet. So that's what we're having. It's a easy pina colada.
I mean, it's like
made with pop. Or I'm sorry, soda.
It's a pina colada over ice. And I wasn't sure if I would like that. But you know what? It's gone. So, I mean...
Yeah, these kids don't sometimes get those blenders out in a hurry.
And
so.
she brought it in a red Solo cup.
We had to fit the part today. Well, thank you all for listening, and we hope you'll join us next time.
Yep. I'll see you on Friday.
See you on Friday. Thank you, Ethan.
Thanks for joining us on Empty Nesters True Crime Podcast, where we've delved into chilling mysteries and dark secrets. With their nest now empty, Susan and Nancy will keep uncovering the truth and venturing into the unknown. Until next time, stay safe and step into the shadows with us again.